Would you give your child marijuana to save their life? Monday on WRAL News, meet two local families fighting a life-threatening disorder.
Brian and Brian, please, please stop this.
Their last hope is illegal in North Carolina. WRAL travels to Colorado to show you a medical miracle from marijuana.
For the first time, she actually understands the world around her. It does feel like a miracle.
What would you do? Before you answer, watch Monday at 5:30 on WRAL News.
There's nothing I wouldn't consider trying for my child if other people were having this kind of success.
Oh gosh. Right now on WRAL News, parents going to great lengths to keep their children alive. Tonight, a tale of two local families dealing with devastating forms of epilepsy. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jackie Hyland.
And I'm Gerald Owens. Our story focuses on two young girls who have exhausted all of their options. One is getting help from a controversial source, while the other is hoping to try it as well. The source is a marijuana plant that is illegal in North Carolina. WRAL's Bruce Mildorf traveled to Colorado to check out this so-called medical miracle, a liquid form of marijuana.
Here we go. Hang on.
It's not often 5-year-old Zora Carlin and her big sister Eva get to share a fun downhill ride together.
Good job.
You want to go again?
Because unfortunately, daily life for this Johnston County family is very much an uphill battle.
It's hard. It's very hard.
Zora had her first seizure when she was 6 months old.
It was 20 minutes long.
The seizures became a regular occurrence, with up to 40 a day.
Just praying, crying and praying and crying and praying, please, please stop this.
Zora has a rare, hard-to-treat, debilitating form of epilepsy known as Dravet syndrome, for which there is no cure.
All these drugs are mind-altering.
14 different medications, various diets, vitamins, and supplements have had little to no effect.
You just sit there and watch her.
With no idea how long each seizure will last.
I mean, this is our reality.
This is also their reality.
Eyes.
I cry.
A cry.
The epileptic seizures dramatically impact Zora's development and quality of life.
You start losing hope, and then you hear there's something out there that changes it, but it's illegal.
It's illegal in North Carolina, not here in Colorado, where there's a medicine showing great promise in children just like Zora. It's an oil extracted from a specially grown marijuana plant.
It does feel like a miracle.
Liz Gorman moved from Raleigh to Colorado in December so that her 7-year-old daughter, Maddie, could take what's called Realm Oil.
Her morning cluster that used to have 30 in it, and it was a definite. She woke up in the morning and she was going to have that cluster of seizures. That went away almost immediately.
Maddie swallows a dropper full of the oil 3 times a day.
Yeah. Was that good? No. Yay.
The Gormans are paying a hefty price, the financial burden.
I love you.
There's the emotional cost. Gorman's husband stayed behind in Raleigh for work.
You know, what are we saving for if not for something that could potentially really change our child's life? For me, it's worth it, but it feels pretty ridiculous that we would have to move across the country to access this medicine, especially given the results that people are seeing.
And this is the plant right here that we're talking about.
Yes.
Jordan Stanley and 5 of his brothers are growing a special marijuana strain called Charlotte's Web, named after Charlotte Figge, one of the early success stories.
Good job.
She went from having 1,200 seizures a month down to about 3.
There's no negative effects that we've seen. Even though it may not do the miracle, you know, for someone else's kid like it does for Charlotte, it's still giving them a better quality of life.
Charlotte's Web has just trace amounts of THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana.
You can't get high on that low of THC.
Stanley says they're currently providing the oil to more than 200 people.
It's almost unbelievable it's working that well for these families.
I try not to get my hopes up too much about anything. But this is the first time in a long time that I've really been able to feel truly hopeful.
On one hand, I'm so happy for her, And on the other hand, my heart's breaking because my daughter can't get this right now.
And Zora's is an extreme case.
She is.
Dr. Yael Shiloh, a pediatric neurologist at UNC, says Zora has essentially exhausted all FDA-approved options. The oil has not been thoroughly studied and is not FDA approved.
Is it reasonable to try it even before there is data? I think that in Zora's case, it is.
She says a real concern in Zora's case is something called SUDEP, sudden unexplained death in epilepsy.
This is one of the reasons that we're in great urgency to try whatever we can to help control her epilepsy better.
What I want to give Zora can't be abused. It doesn't have the part that gets you high. We would just want to be able to have the oil here legally.
Zora's parents just want their daughter to have a chance for a better life.
She doesn't have time. She doesn't have time to wait. Tomorrow can be her last day.
Steve and Dawn Carlin say that for a number of reasons, they're not in a position to move out west right now. There are many other families in the Triangle and across the state facing the same issues who would also like to see state lawmakers legalize the oil extract. Last year, this much broader medical marijuana bill was introduced in North Carolina. It didn't go anywhere. We'll keep you posted as to what our elected officials have to say about this oil. Gerald?
And boy, it's so hard to watch those beautiful children suffer like that, Bruce. Tell me, without an effective treatment, what kind of life can Zora expect?
Well, children who have Zora's disorder do not grow out of it. So until she finds something that really helps, Zora's condition is not expected to improve.
We've got to do this for them. It's the only hope they have.
Right now on WRAL, an emotional message from a lawmaker pushing to legalize a form of medical marijuana. Her mission? To help children such as Zora who suffer from severe seizures. Tonight, WRAL has learned a state lawmaker says she will call for change. We first told you 2 weeks ago about a form of medical marijuana showing great promise in children with devastating forms of epilepsy that's currently illegal in North Carolina.
Families say it dramatically reduces the number of seizures, improves fine motor skills, and with no mind-altering side effects. WRAL's Bruce Mildorf joins us live from outside the legislative building with more on what may be introduced in the coming months. Bruce?
We're talking about marijuana in its liquid form that growers tell me cannot get people high. Doctors have told me that the children impacted by this are at risk for SUDEP, sudden unexplained death in epilepsy. Most of them who will benefit from this have exhausted all other options, which is why parents say the only place left to turn is right there, inside the legislative building.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Zora Carlin recently celebrated her 5th birthday. She's one of the sweetest kids you'll ever meet. But day to day, her parents say, she's one of the most challenging and unpredictable kids to care for.
She's happy reading with her or something, and the next minute, you know, she's on the floor. And she's into a full-blown seizure, turning blue.
Zora has an extreme, debilitating, hard-to-treat form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome. She's had up to 30 to 40 seizures a day. Zora's parents believe her only hope is an oil extract from a specially grown marijuana plant that is not legal in North Carolina.
Her quality of life is not advancing. You know, she takes 2 steps forward and has a seizure and takes 5 steps back. So it's like she's not advancing anywhere. She's still a 2-year-old.
I just can't even imagine having to sit there as a parent and watch that. You've got to get help for these children as soon as possible.
We showed State Representative Pat McElraft our story about what many are calling a medical miracle. A miracle children in North Carolina can't access unless they move to another state.
We've got to find a way to allow our North Carolinian children to be able to take this.
This 4th-term state representative is committed to introducing a bill and passionate about getting it passed.
And this bill is not going to be about legalizing marijuana. It's not going to be about legalizing medical marijuana for adults. This is only about the CBD oil for the children.
Children with severe epilepsy.
I thank her. I thank her for looking at this fully. I'm feeling very excited, but I'm still I still know we have a lot of challenges.
Without a new law legalizing the oil, the Carlins worry how many more birthdays Zora may celebrate.
We've got to do this for them. It's the only hope they have.
Now, Representative Mikel Raft says she plans to name the bill Hope for Haley after a 5-year-old girl who lives in her district. She says anyone, whether it's family, friends, or supporters who believe in this effort, who believe in the bill, they need to contact their state legislators.
Some patients with seizure disorders are a step closer to having access to what many are calling a miracle drug.
That miracle coming from marijuana. It's a story we've been following for months. WRAL's Bruce Mildorf went to Colorado to learn more about an oil extract from a marijuana plant. He joins us live in the newsroom with today's vote. Bruce?
And Gerald and Jackie, it overwhelmingly passed the House 111-2. The bill calls it a hemp oil extract. Not once is marijuana mentioned in this bill, and it's titled Hope for Haley and Friends. One of those friends is Zora Carlin. We first introduced you to her back in February. She has a rare, uncontrollable, debilitating form of epilepsy known as Dravet syndrome, for which there is no cure. Zora has essentially run out of medical options. The one drug that seems to help others like her is an oil extract that is illegal in North Carolina, and it's shown tremendous results in places like Colorado where it is legal. We're told the psychoactive effects are basically non-existent. Local families are thrilled with today's vote, but realize there's another hurdle to overcome.
This is not a pathway to something more broad. We're trying to treat children with a compassionate drug that is going to help these children. And I just hope they can find compassion over in the Senate and let this thing be heard and vote on it.
Now, a number of North Carolina families are already using the oil. In some cases, one parent stayed home in North Carolina while the other temporarily moved with their child to a place like Colorado. I was told by a Senate leader this afternoon the Senate will start discussing the bill next week, and you can be sure we'll keep you posted.
A bill legalizing a form of medical marijuana is one signature away from becoming law in North Carolina. Cullen Browder is here with that story. And Cullen, this bill passed rather quickly.
It did, Gerald, because it has a very narrow focus that applies only to an oil extract from the marijuana plant. It doesn't clear the way for recreational use or broad medical use. It's strictly oil that has shown promise in treating forms of epilepsy in children. The hemp oil bill passed unanimously in the Senate, almost unanimously in the House, now goes to Governor McCrory. Back in February, WRAL introduced you to families desperately wanting this oil to treat and limit seizures in their children. We even traveled to Colorado where marijuana is legal. We met a family who had moved from North Carolina to there specifically to get access to that oil. Now, the extract lacks THC, so the user does not get high, but it is a big victory for those families who lobbied for the oil. The bill calls for a registration process and a pilot study. We reached out to the governor's office to see if he will sign the bill. Still no response yet, although he has given no indication that he opposes this measure. You'll find a lively conversation about the hemp oil bill on WRAL's Facebook page.
Late today, Governor Pat McCrory said he will sign a bill that allows the use of a marijuana extract for the treatment of seizure disorders. That's good news for a 5-year-old Johnston County girl with a debilitating form of epilepsy. Adam Owens spoke with her family tonight and joins us live. Adam, very encouraging news for this family.
You can imagine, Gerald, there was a lot riding on this bill in the legislature for this family. Sponsors of the bill say extracting the medicine this family needs actually alters marijuana to the point it's technically considered hemp and cannot produce a high. Still convincing some lawmakers this was not a pathway to medical marijuana. It was not always an easy sell. But today, this family got a very big win.
The Carlin family watched from above.
It was surreal. It was very surreal today. It was, wow, we're here.
Below them, state lawmakers were casting votes that could change their lives.
The clerk will open the vote.
This is why that vote was so important.
Are you ready for your close-up?
This is 5-year-old Zora Carlin in one of her better moments. Then there are these moments when the little girl struggles through a seizure.
It takes your heart out and just stomps on it every time.
All you can do is sit there and tell her you love her.
It's been like this since she was 6 months old. Zora has an intractable seizure disorder. She suffers from around 60 seizures a month now. They've slowed her development and could kill her. Medicines available in North Carolina to treat her can be an added nightmare, the Carlins say.
She would rip the skin off her legs and
Scratch herself until she was bleeding, bang her head.
Then there is CBD oil, a compound in marijuana. The family says it has helped other kids with Zora's condition, in some cases greatly reducing the number of seizures. The oil is legal in Colorado, but not in our state.
I could change their mind in a minute.
That takes us back to this moment, a bill on the House floor that could bring CBD oil to North Carolina. When it passed, Zora clapped from the gallery. The Senate passed it too, and at the Carlin home in Clayton, we were first to tell them the governor planned to sign the bill into law. It was a high-five moment, and perhaps a life-changing moment for this little girl and others with her disorder.
You know, I just thank all the people that have been behind us, and got nothing but love for them.
CBD oil is not yet approved by the FDA, but families like the Carlins could soon be able to get their hands on it in the coming months. The big question, of course, is will this work for Zora? Her family says they hope to soon find out, and they say at least now or soon they should have the chance to find out.
For the last 4 months, WRAL has followed two families who want access to an experimental medication for their children.
The medicine that could potentially impact dozens of other families will likely become legal in North Carolina next week. WRAL's Bruce Mildorf tells us some celebrations have been somewhat tempered by concern among some families.
Have a kiss.
We met Liz Gorman and her daughter Maddie during our trip to Colorado earlier this year. They moved there from Raleigh. I spoke to her this time via Skype.
We've been here alone. It's Maddie and I don't have any help.
They headed west so Maddie could access this oil to treat her uncontrollable seizures. Gorman's husband stayed behind for work.
When we arrived here, she had about 80 to 100 seizures a day, and now she has some days as few as 5.
The oil comes from a specially grown marijuana plant considered hemp. It doesn't have the compounds that give people a high. North Carolina lawmakers recently voted to make it legal.
I'm so thankful.
So it's no longer if they'll go home and be reunited, but when.
I'm very excited for them, you know, in a way I'm almost a little more excited for them than I am for myself right now. Because I can't imagine being separated from my wife.
The Carlins have their own set of challenges.
We don't have the medicine yet.
They live in Clayton without the medicine they feel they need for their daughter, 5-year-old Zora, who has up to 60 seizures a week. She has a rare, debilitating, and potentially fatal form of epilepsy.
That's still a heavy burden on us, knowing that, you know, this could be the one.
The one seizure that could kill her.
You know, I believe this is really going to change her life.
Now these two North Carolina families, separated by thousands of miles, have another thing in common: hope.
To be able to just live in our home with my husband, Maddie's dad, again, it's going to be amazing.
Governor Pat McCrory says he will sign the bill into law. His staff expects he'll do so next week. Families who want access to the hemp oil will need to register with the Department of Health and Human Services. The bill states the department must have rules in place by October 1st. Families are hoping the state can get it done much sooner. DHH officials would not comment on that today, saying they're still reviewing the bill. And Deborah, we will stay on top of it.
We know you will. Bruce, thanks.